The world of social media influencing is an $8 billion business, and everyone wants a piece of that pie. But many of these influencers are actually children, and while there are many perks to being a child influencer, is there a dark side to it all? Welcome to Women Talk. We are here for another episode discussing all things women. My name is Zoraya.
And I'm Deborah, and as Zoraya said, we're talking about child influencers, a new phenomenon. I mean, there are hundreds of child influencers around the globe, all over social media, and heck, some children even have Instagram handles before they're born.
I mean, this one channel on YouTube, Ryan's World, which blew up and literally made a revenue of $250 million US just from selling merchandise. And then you have young influencers like Taylor Biggs, who's been seen on red carpets and fashion shows in New York. And it all started from just one little Instagram post that her parents uploaded, and now they are these mega stars.
So what I've realized, it can be accidental, where you put a post up and you're like, oh, that's a cute post of my kid. You put it up and then it snowballs. Or you've got the parents who are like very purposeful in their intentions to build a child superstar. But whichever way you go, it's a tricky area, because are their rights protected? Are they being kept safe?
That's true.
Beyond the fame and the money making of it all. So we've got two great guests with us today to share with us their thoughts on this interesting space, as we're all learning, right? We're all discovering as we go along.
Yes, we are. Okay, Yulin, thank you so much for joining us. So, entrepreneur and also...
Yeah, so I've got a public profile.
Yes.
So I think inherently, because of me, my kids are child influencers. They're not put out there purposely, right?
And Sharmila, Sekaran, you're a lawyer, you work for NGOs, you're a children's rights advocate.
Absolutely.
That'll be interesting to explain that to guests a little bit. And of course, you were one of the founding members and chairperson, I believe, of Voice of the Children.
That's right.
An NGO that looks after the rights of children in Malaysia.
So welcome to both of our guests. So explain a little bit more about your situation with your kids. And
so I have two girls and a boy, so they're all young kids. I guess they're cute in their own way, right? Lots of personalities. So brands just spot them from my handles, right?
Okay.
And they do have Instagram handles, just not individuals, and they don't manage it. We have a Instagram handle for the whole family, and we have a traveling handle, which is for me to put up pictures of all the holidays, right? So when brands do want to engage, I do actually give it to the kids. It's proposed to them. This is what you're going to get. This is what you have to do. Do you want to do the job?
Do they understand the nature of what they're doing and what's being offered to them?
Actually, at this age, because they're 8, 6, and 4, it's fun for them.
Okay.
It's not hard work, I shoot most of the content sometimes, so it's actually in the comforts of their home, doing things that they do already. So it's not something which is forced. I only agree to do jobs which I feel like they can talk about, that they can be organic and authentic.
Right. So it sounds like Lynn is asking about consent, right? You're asking the child, would you like to do this? Here are whether the child fully understands the big picture is another matter. But what are your thoughts, Sharmila, on consent?
Absolutely. A child needs to have full knowledge before they can actually consent, or before we can actually deem that they have consented. So they need to know what the consequences of doing a job is, for example, the consequences of being a social media influencer, because there is no shelf life for this, right? It's once it's on social media, it's there forever. So does a child know and understand that? Do they know and understand how that's going to impact their world, their future? And this is a little bit of the struggle that parents may have. There are some parents who are very aware and knowledgeable about the issues and prioritize the child, put the best interest of the child forward, ensure the child is protected throughout the process. Like, do they want to do this? Make sure they're not doing anything that they are uncomfortable with, things that are normal for them. But there are some parents who may not be so diligent or aware even.
Because it's interesting we talk about, it could be confusing because we're wearing two hats. You're wearing the hat as a parent, which should be protecting the child, best interest of the child, but you're wearing hat as a bit of a business manager, talent manager.
Do they ever say, no, I don't want to do that? Or how
if they don't want to do it, we don't do it.
Just don't do it.
Or if I believe it's something they should do, you know, kids sometimes, they need some time to
Little
be convinced. You know, you kind of just coax them, but at the end of the day, it's your decision, and the money goes to you. It's going to your bank accounts. Each of them have their own bank account with their own ATM card. And obviously, we are trying to drill into their heads that you want to save this money. You want to save it for your future, or for if ever in the future you need it, right? The money's there for you, and it's going to grow. So that's what we're trying to cultivate. It's not, we're not doing like, I'm not the talent manager. I'm not doing this because we need the income as a family. The kids are purely doing this because they enjoy doing it. It's a brand they love, and they want to actually make some money and save.
Do you get a lot of brands approaching you to work specifically with your kids?
I'm not the most popular. I don't think my kids are the most popular child influencers out there, but there is interest for sure. You know, I think also because I have my platform, and I guess I'm quite authentic and organic with how I portray the kids, as in it's my family, and I don't portray them to be something they're not. Maybe brands can see that.
And I think there's a difference, I think there's a difference between a parent who actually pushes the child forward and the child is the social influencer for the family versus a parent who has a social media platform and the child just
brings the kids into it. Well, we're going to take a quick break now. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about the legal part of things, right? Because we talk about consent, we talk about who's really protecting the child, and are there laws out there? If, for example, you're thinking about the best interests of your child, but what about the parents who don't? And what about cases where a child perhaps is being exploited? What are the actions we can take? So we're going to see you guys after this.
Welcome back to Women Talk, where we are talking about child influencers. Now, we've discussed a little bit about what a child influencer is, and now we're going to speak more about what the legal aspects of getting children to work are, and are they protected? So what are their rights, actually, when it comes to doing this kind of work?
Well, that's the problem. In social media, there are no rights at the moment. I mean, the children have their rights, but in terms of the law, they are left unprotected. The law does exist for public entertainment. So children who are working, for example, in the film industry or, you know, TV commercials, things like that, advertising, the kind of more mainstream media, even there's a lot of grey area, but it's a little bit more regulated. But when it comes to social media, where a lot of the work, in inverted commas, happens at home, in the private setting rather than a public setting like a studio, there's even less oversight and less regulation.
How do you tax a child for work like that? And, you know, like, for example, the law, in the regulations to the law on child employment, well, the agent for public entertainment, and that's where the child is in the real film and media world, the child is supposed to be seen by a government medical officer before they start work.
Is this Malaysia?
Yes, it's in the Malaysian regulations.
Clearly no one knows about this.
Exactly.
Amazing.
Right? Yeah.
Okay.
And then every 3 months after, that's what the regulations state.
What to say, to check mental state, physical?
Everything, right? And to have that conversation. So doctors actually have to consider the physical, the psychological, the emotional well-being of the child, right?
That's good.
So for example, if a child comes in tired, the child may not be physically abused in the kind of hitting kind of sense. But if the child is tired and, you know, depressed, the doctor should pick it up and report it. And it says government medical officer, not a private medical officer, right? How many people are doing this
I've never
in
been
media?
I've never seen it.
Exactly. So there's no enforcement of what is actually law and regulation. But do parents in the social media space, do parents know this for their children? And are they getting their children evaluated on a regular basis? Who is looking into that?
So you always expect the parent to always look out for the best interests of the child. And I think that's generally the case, but you're right, there's certain special cases.
I think also because it's the parents working with the children. I mean, at the end of the day, we hope that the parents are going to have that highest interest of the child's well-being. And because it is at home, you are kind of overseeing that. So maybe like the dynamic is a little bit different.
It's a very grey area.
But then, of course, it's what you were saying earlier is, you know, there are some good parents, but then what about the parents that are just purely there to exploit their children?
And where do you cross that boundary, right? Where does it turn into exploitation versus, when there's just that little bit more money involved?
You know, like as adults, we push ourselves, but as the kid, you have to just put that that don't cross that line. And then, of course, you look around you, you look globally, you look at all these massive, you know, influencers, millions of followers, and their kids are like, I mean, you look at their kids and
the
like,
likes.
yeah.
Like, what are we teaching the kids?
And
what are their values?
Yeah.
What, are their goals? So,
have you had bad experiences, or have you seen examples of that?
In the child influencing world, I've met a few along the way. And it's quite peculiar because my kids, I guess, are so shielded. So they don't, first of all, they didn't even know they were featured on Instagram because I've never told them, look at you here, look how many likes. We've never pushed it. So sometimes when we're walking, people be like, oh, hi, Zara, and I'm, how do I don't know how they know you.
Wow.
Yeah, because I also want to shield her as long as we can because she will be exposed. It's the generation. But there have been child influencers that I've met that were like, will post something and show me, oh my God, I only have 10 likes. And they're just staring at the screen and just waiting for the likes to go up. And I'm like, what are you doing? And
it's really traumatic.
So that for me, it makes me even want to do less for my children because I don't believe this is what they should be chasing. Right?
And, you know, and the flip side to that is, at some point, especially the ones who are in school already, their friends may know that they are influencers. And you have both sides. You've got people who want to be friends because of who you are.
Or make fun of you.
Or, exactly, right? The kind of jealousy.
And that's why I think, you know, the kids need to, like, they need to agree to do the job. Because why are you agreeing to do the job? And if people make fun of you, you can always defend your decision because you made the decision. Not your family, not your manager. So I think the kids always need to be involved in this process as much as possible.
And who knows, maybe, you know, your children, they'll reach their teenage years and go like, Mom, I'm done. I don't want to do this to the next. And they may just stop it for 5 years or forever or whatever. And you have to respect that, as difficult as that may be as a parent, right?
And Zara's come to the age where she's 8 and she's like, Mommy, please don't put it up.
Oh, wow.
Okay, right? Whereas the younger ones are like, no, or put it up, put it up, you know?
I see that.
So you just kind of like have to respect them, right?
But it's important to engage with the children, and that's what it is, really, you know, to actually hear them out and to try and understand where they're coming from. So an 8-year-old who doesn't want it up, why? You know, what's going on?
Rationalize it,
exactly,
she can defend
and what's
it.
going on in her life that she's saying, I don't want this up.
Just here, like some statistics, if you're a nano influencer, you can make anywhere between 100 per post. But then if you are a macro influencer with 1 million, you can make anywhere between 5,000 to 10,000 US dollars per post. So there is such a big financial incentive here as well. But where do you find that balance between what is financial incentive and the well-being of the child?
You want to feed it to her? Crazy face! Cheers to the food. Cheers. Okay, and drink. You look happy.
My name is Ava and I'm turning 7.
And how old are you?
So my name is Zara and I am 8 years old.
Do you guys know that you guys are like quite famous on social media?
I know. I get embarrassed by her.
Hi everyone, can we have a huge round of applause? Brunch with Women Talk.
The program proudly sheds light and awareness on a variety of women empowerment.
So thank you for taking time out to come.
Get interactive. We want to hear what you have.
The only thing that I'm sad about is that
I observed that most people who get a video with Google.
Okay, like to the hospital, in Poland, I got Asian.
Sing. Come back. You know what you're doing. Just can't get enough.
Welcome back to Women Talk, we've been talking about child influencers and protecting their rights. But what about what's going on inside their minds, their mindset? Because being exposed to social media, not quite understanding it, but then doing a lot of work, it must influence them in some way, right? So how do parents navigate that? Are you prepared for conversations with the kids as they get older, or has that even started now?
It started because Zara's very aware now at age. So once she started going to primary school was when, you know, she started being more in the real world, you know, once they get out to kindergarten, right, the bubble. So I do have conversations with her. We do talk about it, and she tells me what she's comfortable with and what she's not. So it's a very joint decision whenever we do anything. And I think as you get older also, as kids get older, you get more shy or you get more insecure.
Conscious.
You get more conscious, you know. Suddenly you're like, you feel like you're stripped bare. So I think for me, I'm very conscious with her at that age. The two younger ones are just like, la la la, you know,
wait till she's a teenager. That's when it gets really interesting.
No, exactly. So I just want to make sure that I'm also raising a very strong-minded individual woman, you know, especially for us.
And there's this interesting notion on future privacy. I don't know, Sharmila, if you have thoughts on this, because what happens if your child turns 15 and says, Mommy, you made me do, or Daddy, you made me do all these things when I was a kid, and I hate it, and you look what you did, and
now I'm on social media all over the
life,
place.
forever.
Exactly, right? And that's absolutely it. And that's why children can't consent, because they don't know all these things, right? They're still learning, they're still developing. As an adult, you know this, you know the consequences, you know the implications.
But what you were saying earlier about the psychology test on just like, or checking on how the child is, I actually think the same thing should almost apply to the parents, you know, to see like, are the parents psychologically sound to be able to make the right decisions on what
for the best interest of their children?
Yeah, and that's the problem, right? We always defer to the parents. In most jurisdictions, in most countries, and definitely here, you know, if there's a discrepancy in how you bring up the child, no one is going to say you're doing it wrong, except a mother-in-law, perhaps. But, you know, no one else is going to interfere in that decision. But when it comes to issues involving children and how they're going to be portrayed, you know, there are a lot of other consequences and thoughts that need to go into it. And, you know, you've got good parents who actually engage the children and think a lot about what's going on and are perhaps a little bit more aware themselves. So they themselves have got a lot more emotional intelligence and knowledge about things. And then you've got other parents who, hey, I've got a cute kid, I'm just going to push that kid forward.
Or maybe I have to have this income now. It's a short-term decision. So you're making long-term decisions, or you're making short-term decisions for the family and for the children, right?
Sorry, I wanted to ask you, like, so when you're fighting for children's rights in this industry, what kind of things are you actually fighting to try and establish, or what situations or cases have you come across already that you've gone, oh, okay, this is something we need to find a solution for?
It's raising awareness for the public, but also with the government and you know, the legislators, to get the right kind of laws put into place, but also to raise awareness for parents to start thinking about certain issues. So great, you've got some parents who are a little bit more aware, but not all are. And, you know, like, for example, this thing where, oh, maybe I should go and get my children evaluated on a regular basis, because at any point, children are changing so fast, right? And sometimes you just don't know what's going on in their other world.
As a parent, as much as it's your right to make decisions for your child, it's your responsibility to know that because you're putting them in this situation, that you need to protect them, and you need to take those extra steps that may make you feel uncomfortable. Like, am I really taking my kid to see a therapist? You know, you may be like, oh, I don't know about that, but maybe you need to do these things. Maybe it can't always just be you and the father.
And I think it's parents not wanting to do it, but not even thinking that maybe they should be doing it.
And, you know, there's a lot of passive-aggressive that goes on. There's a lot of blackmailing that goes on, intentionally or otherwise, you know.
It's true, and I will be guilty of that, for sure.
You know,
desperate
in
times.
a situation where, for example, you've got 3 children, right? Or whatever, 2 children, and one child wants to do, the other child doesn't want. Well, you know, your sister's going to get this, and your sister's going to get that, and your sister, and what's the other child going to do? Well, all right then, I'll go along with it.
Big celebrity children, right, that grew up as like child stars. And there's very few of them that have gotten out without a scratch. Like many of them, psychologically, it like does affect you in a way, and I don't think we even truly understand what the effects are yet.
I think if you're putting all this pressure on your children to be income earners for the family, that can't be a good thing.
No.
Because you didn't bring them into this world for them to churn out income for you, right? Children.
It's true.
So I think if that is the mindset for parents to always think, don't burden your children with this, then maybe the kids will get through okay. Not like, those Hollywood Childs does, because they were literally earning millions, right?
Yeah, and they knew it, and they knew what their role became.
Their role was, right?
And they were thrust into an adult world without protection of
without
the child.
that support and all of the others.
So just in wrapping this up, laws, policy, it's great. It's going to take some time. I mean, but I like your point on education, awareness, and what parents can do today, right now. So what can you do to just think about their interests a little bit more?
So I think, like, for example, brands and advertisers could do a lot more in terms of ensuring that they have the children's best interests at heart as well, and that they have some kind of, I don't know, community control or whatever among themselves, right, where they hold each other accountable. But also I think it's important for the government to get involved. There's going to be a lot more information, data that's going to come out of this from child influencers. How much do children actually earn as child influencers? What happens to them? Are they going to actually, like we were discussing, become good, responsible adults, or are they just going to go off a path because they've seen too much money, too much fame, when they're ill-equipped emotionally to handle it?
I just don't think a child should be subjected to that amount of pressure. And if the child does feel that pressure, then don't do it.
Back off.
That's great.
Back off. That's a good
brilliant
way to
advice. Yeah, a great way to end.
And think about your kids. We kept saying this, I think, across the entire show. Be engaged, communicate with them, really sit and listen to what they're going through, what they're feeling and experiencing, and allow them to share with you. I think that's ultimately the best parent-child relationship, beyond social media, beyond making money, beyond the fame, allowing them to be kids.
There's amazing perks from being a child influencer, and you can set your children up for an amazing future if it's done right. You just have to make sure that through every step that you're taking, you're always looking at the child's best interest and making sure that they are healthy and they are thriving in the environment that you're putting them in. And I think that's
and they're being kids.
The foundation of
kids. Just be kids.
But yes, thank you very much for joining us on another show.
Yeah, and thank you guys for being with us today. And we shall see you next time. Take care.